right, welcome everybody to CCFCS and AAFCS, a winning combination to maximize industry certifications for your Family and Consumer Sciences program. My name is Arnessa Dotson, and I am the director for the Curriculum Center for Family and Consumer Sciences at Texas Tech University in the College of Health and Human Sciences. We also have Dr. Karen Alexander, the Program Chair, Family and Consumer Sciences Education, Faculty Fellow for the Curriculum Center for Family and Consumer Sciences at Texas Tech University, the College of Health and Human Sciences. I also want to present to you Dr. Lori Myers from AAFCS. She is the Chief of Staff and the Senior Director for Core Competency. And so welcome everybody. Thank you for your attendance, and I will turn it over to Dr. Myers.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Arnessa. I am very excited to be joining you today to share with you about our AAFCS Pre-Professional Assessment and Certification Program, or what we fondly refer to as Pre-PAC. And so today I'm going to give you an overview of how this program can be a winning combination for your students on their pathway to career success. I do want to point out, based on the Perkins 5 legislation, an industry-based credential, or an IBC, or some states refer to them as IRCs, these are credentials that are of high value, and they are the credentials that, where appropriate, are endorsed by a recognized trade association or organization that represents a part of an industry or sector. So all of our AAFCS Pre-PAC products are actually industry-based credentials because AAFCS is the umbrella organization, the trade association for family and consumer sciences. Our IBCs include a portfolio of 12 different assessments. And what I would love to have you put into the Q&A area is if you could put in that area if you have actually utilized one of the products within our portfolio. So the 12 products, range from our broad field to very specialized areas to our newest one, which is in Leadership Essentials. So it covers all career and technical education areas. So just put that in the Q&A box if you have utilized one of our assessments. As I mentioned, we have 12 different products, and what you'll hear a little bit later on in the presentation are those that are specifically used in Texas for your IBCs. Now, regardless of which title you may be using, all of our credentials share the same foundation. All of them were based on business and industry standards. So we had a development panel of business and industry professionals, as well as content experts, who joined together to develop the assessments and identify the standards that a pre-professional should know and be able to do. So we want to make sure that you understand that it is preparing them for business and industry, preparing them for a career. But not only does it have the industry standards as a foundation, they also are aligned with the national standards for family and consumer sciences and any other national standards that are related to a content area. So for example, personal finance is aligned with the National Jumpstart and personal finance standards. Not only do they match the industry standards and the content standards, they are also aligned with the career clusters. But we didn't want to stop there. We also wanted to make sure that all of our assessment products and certifications actually aligned or correlate to other national initiatives. So they align with the 21st Century Skills, the U.S. Department of Education's Employability Framework, and the Career Ready Practices that are associated with the Common Career and Technical Core. And so we have a matrix correlation map for each of our assessments to show how they align with these national initiatives. All of our assessment products include a competency blueprint that identifies the domains or topic areas that are covered within the assessment the specific competencies of what a pre-professional should know and be able to do, and also the appropriate weighting for the particular domains or topic areas. So this really provides kind of an outline or a skeleton, if you will, of the assessment. Then when we dig a little bit deeper into the assessment, we wanted to make sure that all of our assessments and certifications did have a specific cognitive rigor to them. So about 40% of the test is at the basic level of knowledge and comprehension, knowing basic terminology or theories. And then 60% of the exam is actually at the application level or higher. So we don't want them to just know the information and be able to, regurgitate it back to us. We want them to be able to apply it. We want them to be able to evaluate a situation and respond. So there's some case studies and scenario-based items on the exam. Now, where will you find information specific to that cognitive rigor and specific to those the blueprint contents? It's in our assessment bulletin. So on our website that you can download at no charge is a bulletin for each one of our products that provides general information, a little bit of an assessment at a glance. There's an expanded competency outline, and then, of course, some sample test questions. This is an example of that expanded content outline. And this example is actually from our early childhood education exam. And so the topic area of developmentally appropriate practice. So you see the competencies there, but then you can see that this expanded outline really breaks it down even further into the content that a pre-professional should know or be able to perform upon completion of the program. So I've given you a basic overview of our products. I want to then now switch to our assessment process. So once you decide that you want to utilize our products, how do you begin to navigate the assessment process? And we have a very simple 5-step process where we will apply to be a testing site. And then that takes you all the way to step 5, where you can access your data reports. And so we have a quick guide on our website that literally walks you through each of the steps of the process. And then you'll see the link to what we call our Pre-PAC management system. And this is our website that literally facilitates all parts of the process. And so it's definitely a site that you'll want to bookmark or favorite. So I'm going to quickly provide an overview of the assessment process and then have an opportunity to share a little bit about what the data will look like before we then find out more information about how you can align your curriculum to using the Pre-PAC products. So the first step in the process is you do need to apply to become a testing site. There's no cost involved in this. It's an online application, basically where your school is actually agreeing to the security stipulations associated with the exam. This is an annual process. Our testing year begins August 1st of each year and ends on June 30th. So if you tested with us last year, you'll definitely want to fill out a new application for this year, because then you'll be assigned a testing code specific to this year and the login credentials that you'll need to access all of the different portals. Again, it is an online application, and there is no fee associated with becoming a testing site, and there's no obligation. So if you want to go ahead and become a testing site just to kind of see what it's like, then we certainly would encourage you to do that. Once you become a testing site and you are assigned a testing code, then you can purchase your products online through our online order center. And so we accept credit card payments. We also accept purchase orders for payment as well. We have a lot of resources that are available to you if you need quotation forms, so you need a quote. I know many of the school districts in Texas need that sole source document. So we can provide that for you all on our website, our W-9. We can fill out all the paperwork that's necessary in order to become an approved vendor in your particular district. And then you see we offer 2 different products. We have a single administration of the exam, which is a one-time administration for each individual. That's $25. And then we offer a test-retest package, which basically gives each candidate 2 test administrations. A lot of schools use that for pre and post testing, or sometimes they'll just use it as a diagnostic tool so that the student can see kind of where their strengths and weaknesses are. We do have a brand new order form this year. If you are using one method of payment for multiple test sites, we have provided a little bit more convenient process for you. And then it's important to remember that all of your orders must be paid before you can actually administer the assessment. So you definitely want to start planning ahead, getting those purchases made and getting your purchase orders. As I mentioned, you can pay by credit card. All of those major credit cards, you can actually pay with a purchase order, and then our new centralized order form for multiple test sites. Once you've got that order placed, the next step is to register the students for testing. All of the students must be registered prior to testing with us, and that is done through a very simple Microsoft Excel spreadsheet. You'll actually fill out the information in the spreadsheet. Our instructions tell you exactly what fields are, required or optional. Once you actually then fill out that spreadsheet, you simply will upload it to our submission portal. And then that will allow AAFCS staff to register your students in the assessment portal and provide you all of the information where they will be ready to test. Once that has been done, we will send you a registration is complete email indicating that you are ready for student testing. Which takes us to step 4. Once you get that registration is complete, registration confirmation email, then you are actually ready to administer the assessments. Now, keep in mind, you as the teacher of record cannot serve as the sole proctor. So you will need to be, you can be in the room, but you will have to have another individual from the testing site serving as the sole proctor. We do have our quick guide, which is our guidebook that has all of the step-by-step instructions. It has the proctor script, everything that you need for administering the assessments. And then once you administer the assessments, again, they're all online, so there's no download for you. There's nothing for a software plug-in. Once you administer the assessment, the very first student completes it, then the data reports are immediately accessible by you as a testing site. So you don't have to wait weeks for results to come to you. You don't have to wait for any information from AAFCS. You can log in and immediately get all of your score reports and your certificates if they have earned the qualifying score. You can download those to Excel so that you can track them from year to year. You can download your certificates individually by student, or we do have the option that you can do them in bulk and download all of your students at one time. And then what we really encourage is the test site administrators, perhaps they might be the assistant principal, the testing coordinator, someone from the district office. We really encourage them to share the results with the teachers so that they can actually see the information and how the students are performing. Because you'll get an overall score, and that's the one that's used for certification, but then the students will also get a score for each of the domain areas. And that can really be helpful to identify those areas of strength and those areas where they might need some additional remediation. So since we are talking about the data reports and the certificates that you'll be able to access, I want to show you a little bit about what the data looks like. Because I think that the assessment data is really the real value of utilizing Pre-PAC, because you can use the data from the assessment and certification to actually drive decision making. So how might you do that? Well, I'm going to share a few of the examples of how the data can be used. Many of our districts, of course, are using the data and the assessments to document the achievement of the students. So as they are finishing a rigorous secondary program or a post-secondary lower division course. So it's a great way to document, how are they performing at the end of a program. One of the great things to me about the data, having an education and background, is that it can be used to inform instruction. And so once you get the data, you can really look to see how are the students performing in each of the areas. Is it something that one particular student is having difficulty with, or is it something that the entire class is having difficulty with? And so although you might be taking the assessment or offering the assessment to meet like Perkins requirements or some kind of mandate from your district, or sometimes they just want to check the box, you can actually use that data in a very valuable way to see how you can change your instruction. And then, of course, the pre and post test is often used to kind of target gaps and try to identify what are the things that the students might need additional remediation, or in some cases, maybe they need some enrichment or acceleration. We also use the data. A lot of schools are using it to satisfy those reporting mandates from their Perkins at the federal level, the state level, district level. But there's a lot of different ways that you can actually use that data. You can use it to identify ways to improve your program. What are some things that you want to change up in your curriculum? You might use it to identify areas where you would like some professional development. Or perhaps if the students aren't performing well in a certain area and you don't have a lot of instructional resources in that area, you've got some data that you can take to your stakeholders and administrators to say, hey, our students aren't doing well in this area. I really could use some additional resources for curriculum and instruction. Also, we are seeing that our assessment data is being used for articulation and credit by exam within post-secondary institutions. So that's certainly another value add. And then it's a great way to validate that our students have the knowledge and the skill that they need to be successful in the world of work. So let's see what the data actually looks like from Pre-PAC. As I mentioned, all of the students are going to get an overall score of how they performed in, for example, early childhood or culinary arts. They are also going to get a domain score. So for each of the topic areas. So in early childhood, there's 7 domain areas. In some of the other areas, there's 6 domains. And so they're going to get a score in each of those areas. And then the students can look at that to see, so what areas am I not performing as well as I would like to? And then what are those areas that, perhaps they're just really knocking out of the ballpark? Also, as a teacher, you would be able to look at the data to see, what's the range of scores? How are those scores distributed? Do I have students that are performing very well, or do I have those that are not performing well at all? Here's an example of kind of a screenshot from the assessment results for the student. This is one from early childhood. So you can see they know what their overall score is. They will also get a status, whether they've earned the certification or they did not. And then they get their score in each of the areas. So if we look at this particular student, we can see that perhaps this is a student that's working very well, maybe in their practicum experiences where they're going out and working with children because, they scored 100%. But what are some areas that maybe they need some additional assistance? Maybe it's in the learning environment, curriculum, and instruction. And the student might say, well, what exactly was covered under developmentally appropriate practice? And that's where that bulletin comes into play. So you can go back to that bulletin and see what's the different content areas or terminology or theories that were covered in that particular domain. So again, to sit down with the student to help them understand the score report is really important. But not only will you get to see individual scores by student, you will actually be able to look at your group scores. And so again, this is a group of individuals, a class that took the early childhood exam. And so you can see how did that students performed as a group. So you can see here their highest level was in curriculum and instruction. And then we can see they didn't score as well in like career paths or family and community involvement. So again, being able to look at that to see where might we go back and offer some additional reteaching or remediation. And then you can look at the range of scores. Very interesting to see that in careers, a range of 30 to 90%. So, but in professional practices, a very small range of 50 to 70%. So again, it's looking at the data is really one of the best things about using Pre-PAC. Some other ways that we know that schools are using the data, they're looking at the number of students they're testing, and then they're determining their pass rates. What's the percentage of individuals that's earning the certification? And they're using that to market their program to say, hey, 80% of our students are earning an industry recognized credential or an industry-based credential. So that's really important. They can look at the average and see how they are performing among their other students at the state level, at the federal level. Again, it's really nice to look at the growth that can occur, especially when you use that pre and post testing. Looking at setting a goal or a student learning objective or a student learning target to see, hey, we want all of our students to be at this particular percentage. How are the students performing there? And then one of the great things, especially if you use the assessment year after year, is you can really pull those results and look to see if there's any patterns or trends associated with that. So for example, if there's one area that they didn't perform well in one year, in year 2 and 3, if they're still not performing well, then again, that can help inform your instruction. But you might be able to see that, hey, as you're making changes in your curriculum and instruction, that maybe some of those scores are increasing. And I'll just share a couple of examples from some of the districts. This is an example of how they've used the data as a pre and post test to see kind of performance growth. Here's a particular school that has actually been using our assessment for 3 years. And so you can see how they started out, and then slowly they have been able to increase their scores each year. And then I thought it would be interesting to share with you, we did pull from all of the students that tested in the state of Texas last school year, we did pull the assessments that were offered in Texas, and you can see the assessment average, so how the students are performing, and the certification rate. So how many students are actually earning the certification. And it is actually no surprise to me, the education fundamentals assessment, the students in Texas perform very well on that assessment. You can see the score of 79% and 88% actually earn certification. So that is a very strong program within the state of Texas. So the students perform very well. So very excited about that. So before I turn it over to the Curriculum Center for Family and Consumer Sciences, I will take an opportunity if you have any questions that you want to post in the Q&A. I do want to remind you our website is a great place for resources and information to get you started. But if you still need some assistance, then reach out to us at prepac@aafcs.org or pick up the phone and give us a call. Our AAFCS staff are really excited to be able to help you throughout the assessment process. Any questions? I'll give you a few minutes to put those in the Q&A. Again, we just wanted to do a brief overview of the Pre-PAC products and our assessment process that will hopefully then kind of pique your interest a little bit to want to be able to utilize the assessments. So we do have a question in the chat box about whether the teacher can proctor. So the teacher of record cannot proctor their own students. So you could proctor, like if you're teaching early childhood and another teacher is doing the culinary, you could actually proctor the culinary assessment and that teacher could proctor your early childhood, but you cannot serve as the proctor for the students in which you are the teacher of record. So good question.
So along those lines, Lori, I'll just ask a follow-up question that comes to my mind. Does the proctor have to be a teacher, or could it be a para who might be employed by the district? Are there any parameters on who may be a proctor?
Very good question. So we actually have proctor guidelines on our website. And so the proctor can be anyone that is employed by the testing site. So it could be a para, it could be, a testing coordinator. It can't be another student, or it can't be a parent volunteer. It does have to be a test site employee. Oh, another good question. If you have two teachers with the early childhood. So if you are the teacher of record for any of those students, you would not be able to proctor that exam. Okay. So for example, if you're one teacher is teaching early childhood 1 and another one is early childhood 2, so the content from both of those exams is actually covered on the assessment. So in that case, you would not be able to proctor on your own. So you would need to have another proctor in the room. Good question.
Okay, so I'm actually interpreting Stephanie's question a little differently. So it seems like what I'm reading into this potentially could be you have two teachers that are teaching the same content, different sections. So they both have early childhood 1, for example, and they're teaching it at the same time. Can they switch then rooms and proctor each other's exam?
Again, a really good question. I think for the sake of test security, that you probably would not want to do that, because again, you would be teaching that same content. So although that you would not be the teacher of record for that student, you'd be teaching that exact content. Does that make sense?
Yes, and Stephanie, if that did not capture the question, go ahead and elaborate if need be. Okay, good.
Awesome. Great. All right. Well, I'll continue to monitor the chat, not the chat box, the Q&A box for any questions. But at this time, I will go ahead and turn it over.
We have one more before you leave.
Okay.
So you're not leaving, but hand it over to Arnessa. Is there a resource where I could find certifications offered, and what courses must have been taken in order to complete these?
Awesome. I believe that is going to be a state-by-state resource, and maybe the Curriculum Center might know if there's something in Texas that specifically lists the certifications. I know they're on the Texas Education Agency website, but the state of Texas would identify what courses must be taken in order to complete them. AAFCS does not have any restrictions or requirements for that. We simply offer them as end of program assessments, but exactly what courses you would have to take before you sit for the exam is a state-by-state decision. And I don't know if Arnessa or Dr. Alexander know if there's something on the Texas Education Agency website.
We have the list, the IBC list, and that is actually really more by I will as Arnessa is presenting, I will actually call that up and then be able to show you all where that is. But many of the IBCs I should say a sampling of the IBCs are listed, I believe, on the new programs of study. Stephanie, you can correct me if I'm wrong on that. Please put anything in the chat. But we generally have the kind of the alignment along with the program of study. And so that program of study then would really help the teachers to know the sequence of courses that they may want to have in place so that the students are successful with those IBCs, or the pre-PAC in this case. And I'll locate that list.
Wonderful. Well, and another question came up because we actually have some teachers that are from another state. So if you are in another state, you can certainly check with your CTE department at the state level, and they would be able to identify the programs of study and the courses that are in those programs of study. So At AAFCS, we simply put the competencies out there. And so then the states actually align that to say, hey, these are the courses you should take before you administer the assessment. So good questions.
Yeah, great question.
All right. Well, I'm going to turn it over to Arnessa to share a little bit about the Curriculum Center for Family and Consumer Sciences, and it's tied to Pre-PAC.
Wonderful. Thank you, Dr. Myers. So, hello, everyone. Good evening. Thank y'all for being here with us today. And so I am here, or we are here, to let you know that the Curriculum Center for Family and Consumer Sciences has curriculum aligned with AAFCS Pre-PAC competencies. And Laura, if we could move to the next slide. One more. Thank you. And so we have 5 curriculum selections aligned with AAFCS Pre-PAC products. And if Lori will click, I think 4 times, it'll bring those up. And so pre-professional certification in culinary arts, food science fundamentals, nutrition, food and wellness, and also the early childhood education. And so those are the certifications and assessments that we have aligned 5 of our curriculum selections to. And we'll talk more about those further in the presentation. So just a little history about the Curriculum Center, if you are unfamiliar. Beginning in 1967, FCS educators began creating specialized curriculum for FCS teachers. We have transitioned from print curriculum to now online digital curriculum using a learning management system platform, which you may be familiar with, which is called Blackboard. So when you purchase a membership with the Curriculum Center, you will be onboarded with a tutorial on how to access and use our curriculum to facilitate lesson planning. Our curriculum is organized by topics, units, and strategies and/or activities that are used to facilitate lesson planning. And our curriculum is labeled for FCS national standards and also those Texas standards, which we call TEKS. And so whether you are outside of Texas or you are in the state of Texas, our curriculum will align with either those FCS national standards or those TEKS. So within our curriculum platform, you will see that we have several correlations that exist within the curriculum. And so the AAFCS Pre-PAC, for those courses that are Pre-PAC correlated, you will see that on the left side of your screen within the black menu pane. We also have FCCLA and Educators Rising correlation, correlation to language arts, math, science, and social studies, and much more included within each of the courses. AAFCS Pre-PAC correlations, as Dr. Myers said, we feel like they are far-reaching and they can help you as educators or administrators recognize student achievement, provide data for program accountability, and then also measure rigor of content standards. We offer over 40 plus FCS courses that are organized by career cluster. And those courses that are correlated with AAFCS Pre-PAC include the Principles of Education and Training course, Instructional Practices, Child Development, Child Guidance, Culinary Arts, Food Science, Lifetime Nutrition and Wellness, and then also our Leaders for Tomorrow course. Some new courses that we have coming up that we plan to also correlate with the AAFCS Pre-PAC competencies are our Child Development Associate Foundations course, Communication and Technology and Education course, and our Personal Financial Literacy and Economics course. So look for that soon. Please contact us should you want to view our curriculum catalog, you want to sample our curriculum, or if you have questions about membership and AAFCS Pre-PAC correlations, we are happy to meet with you and help you decide which course will fit your particular program. We also have a YouTube page that provides resources for educators regarding creating accessible teaching aids and videos. And we also have our webinar that we partnered with Dr. Myers last year. That's also included on that YouTube channel. Our curriculum prices are listed there below. We have a 12-month membership, and that can begin at any time. It's not on a school year calendar, it's just on a 12-month calendar. And so whenever you begin, that's when your 12 months would begin. And so again, if you guys have any questions about any of the information that's included in this presentation today, please don't hesitate to contact us. I want to turn it over to Dr. Karen Alexander. She's going to tell you about our Leaders for Tomorrow curriculum and also about the teacher's incentive allotment. Dr. A.
Great, thank you so much, Arnessa. And I have pulled up some of the information resulting from the last question. So before we end today, I will try to answer that for you all as well. So I wanted to just take a moment to talk a little bit about Leaders for Tomorrow. And we, as you heard, have a course that is titled as such. And this one is 100% aligned with the Pre-PAC Leadership's Essential. Now, I want to make sure that it's very clear to you all, those of you who are from Texas, that this is not on the IBC list. So the Leadership Essentials is not an exam on the IBC list. However, the Pre-PAC assessment process is very affordable, and it's one that you might want to think about in using in some of the other areas that are not on the IBC list. As you heard from Arnessa, we have a number of our courses that are aligned and help students receive the content information, the knowledge and skills that they're going to need to be successful on the Pre-PAC. So the Leaders for Tomorrow is a course that is an example of that, but I wanted to point out some things that you'll find in the course. So it focuses in on leadership, decision-making, effective communication, creating a team, ethical leadership, applying leadership skills, community leadership, and leadership in action. And these modules are great supplements to any of your existing courses that you're teaching in family and consumer sciences or in other areas of career and technical education. While the course does have some connections to FCCLA, to family and consumer sciences, for example, it could be used in other areas with just some modifications. And so in thinking about FCCLA, one of the applications with this course is using it as a training really sequence for your officers and allowing them to have access to the resources and the materials, and maybe using the materials in training sessions for your officer team or for your chapter in general. There again, it could be used for really CTSO in making sure that the officers are trained and that they are leading that chapter at the local level. But if you were to, excuse me, provide the curriculum and have this as something that you're working with your students on, you might want to then consider having them complete the Pre-PAC assessment, because it does then result, once they pass that exam, having that credential that they could use in a portfolio, for example. And if you use the idea of the pre and the post, one of the good things about Pre-PAC is you can identify where there might be areas that they need some additional support in. And as a chapter advisor, classroom teacher, and family and consumer sciences, you can target some activities for them and embed some more leadership experiences. So then at the end of the year, they could take that post exam and be successful and receive that certificate so that they have something to illustrate and document their leadership knowledge and skills. So we want to make sure that you are aware of this. This is kind of a hidden gem, and sometimes our teachers are looking for leadership curriculum, and we have that readily available for you. Now, the other thing that we wanted to take a few minutes to talk a little bit about, this came up at our summer conference, and in Texas, we have something called the Teacher Incentive Allotment for Student Growth, and that does allow for third-party vendors to be used as a part of the plan that would be approved and submitted for review and approval for teachers with the Teacher Incentive Allotment. There are a number of vendors that are listed on the link. You will find a link there. Thank you very much. And so what this actually shares is information about criteria for the assessment process of your students, and whether or not you might be able to talk with your administration to determine eligibility with the Teacher Incentive Allotment. One of the things that we have heard from some of our family consumer sciences teachers is that they're disappointed because they're kind of left out of this discussion locally, and they have not been included because often it's difficult to determine where those pre and post exams might be and what might be options for career and technical education. Now, I want to preface this with this is not saying that Pre-PAC is approved or it's on the list. We're just suggesting it to you that it does meet the parameters in terms of what is laid out in the information, and it might be good knowledge to take back and have some conversations with your administration. And I know that Dr. Myers is also looking at what needs to happen to get Pre-PAC listed on the vendor list, which we'll show you here in just a moment. But in terms of the Teacher Incentive Allotment, there are multiple ways that districts can look at growth of their students within their plan for the incentive for teachers. The first is the student learning objectives, and those can actually be a part of what is established locally. Portfolios can also be used, as well as pre-tests and post-tests. And so if you scroll down to portfolios, one of the things that I want to mention to you is it specifically lists there career and technical education, and portfolios are often a very valuable tool for documenting the growth of our students, because we do so much that is applied. And at the bottom of that section, there's a link, and that link does give some resources for portfolio implementation. So you may want to take a look at that and have some conversations with your administration and whoever is in charge of the Teacher Incentive Allotment in your district. And then the next is the pre-post. And so this is where the pre-post section is explained. Pre-posts can be accommodated in a variety of ways. Pre-post assessments can actually be created locally. And so if you'll continue scrolling on down, Lori, thank you. So there are some options. So there's third party, where the third party vendor sets the target. And then there's third party where the district sets their growth target initially, and then the post is the creator. And then there are district pre and post tests that can be created. And then same thing with district and third party. So when we have looked at this this summer, when we started investigating this a little bit more and determining what the criteria would be for potentially the pre-PAC assessments as a possibility, it is very evident that the AAFCS Pre-PAC assessments meet the criteria that has been established by the state. But what I do want to point out to you, when you click on that link where it says third-party assessment options, if you click on that link, Pre-PAC is not listed here, but that's because this information is what Lori is working towards. This is updated every 2 years. There are a couple of options that are on there for career and technical education, including ICEV. Some of you may be ICEV curriculum users, and NOCTI is another one. We're really just sharing this as a source of information, because at the summer conference in particular, we had a number of the teachers who expressed concern and disappointment that they were not eligible for the incentive allotment in their district because there was really no mechanism in place in order to measure student growth within their district. And so we're arming you with information. And at the top of this list, it does indicate that TEA does not endorse any of these. It does not signal an endorsement, nor does the use of one assessment guarantee acceptance of a district's system application. You would need to just talk with whoever's in charge of that, and then put the information in the application and have that approved. We do know that our teachers were very, very instrumental in getting Pre-PAC added to the IBC list. And so as districts are putting together their plans and asking for vendors to possibly be included, that is another way to get the agency to start looking at a possibility, as well as the vendor, which in this case would be AAFCS Pre-PAC, submitting information to have for consideration. The current list is not updated until 2025, so that is something that is underway. And again, just giving you some information for further investigation. We are not saying that Pre-PAC is acceptable on the list for the teacher incentive allotment. It's information for you to go back and have some conversations with your administration and investigate that further. Lori, is there anything you want to add to that before I talk about the IBC question?
No, just that we are working to make sure that, we know we're on their IBC list, but we are working. This teacher incentive allotment is sort of a new type of thing. So we are working to make sure that the Pre-PAC is available for that test retest product for this purpose.
And so if you will have access to the PowerPoint that we are sharing today, so that the link that Lori took you to, this one right here, that one is hyperlinked and will take you to that page on the teacher incentive allotment. Okay, so then to answer your question that came up about what courses do you know, how would you know whether or not your courses are aligned to a particular IBC, the Pre-PAC on the IBC list? So let me just reiterate to you the options that we have on the IBC list for Pre-PAC. The first is the pre-professional certification in culinary arts. So if you were enrolling your students in culinary, advanced culinary, really any of the culinary courses, this is an option where you may want to think about having them do the pre and the post a little later in their program of study. So maybe they start in the intro to college, they have culinary, and then they do advanced culinary. So maybe having them take it with the culinary or possibly the advanced culinary, so that they're testing within that year, because that is critical, right, Lori? They have to test pre and post test within the same academic year. So you could You could not do a pre at the beginning of intro when they are a freshman and then wait and do the post at the senior year. So you need to make sure that you're timing that correctly. So really any of those courses that you're thinking about would sequentially in a program of study help them to prepare for that. Then the next is the early childhood education pre-PAC. And here again, thinking about enrollment in child development as well as the child guidance course, those courses, the combination of those or the child guidance, both of those have alignments and elements of Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills that are clearly connected to the pre-PAC. So you could really use either one of those as a way to assess students' learning in early childhood education, and then hopefully it results in that pre-PAC. Pre-PAC certification. The next is the pre-PAC certification in food science fundamentals. So obviously we have one course in family and consumer sciences that is food science. So here is where if I were the teacher of record, I would do a pre and post, and at the beginning of the food science course that would actually help me determine some things about where they are with potentially with some science principles as well as other aspects of food science, and then be able to gear the course in a way that I know that they're going to be able to pass and be successful, and then do it at the end again, so that pre-post concept. But if you don't have the funding for the pre and the post, then do the post at the end, and that is one course that would align, and that really is the only course that would align to the food science fundamentals. And then the fourth one is the nutrition, food and wellness, and so the aligned course with that one is lifetime nutrition and wellness. So hopefully that answers your question. As Arnessa mentioned, we do have the kind of like a overview blueprint in each of the courses where we have alignment to pre-PAC. And while those four are the ones that we listed on the IBC, recognize that all the ones that are on the screen are available for you to use and integrate in your family and consumer sciences courses and program. And there is benefit to going beyond what's on the IBC list. As Lori pointed out, there are some educational benefits, and even though it may not be on the IBC list, if your students pass, for instance, the leadership essentials that we just talked about, they do still receive a certificate for passing that exam. So it may not count for an IBC, but it does count towards just their overall development, and it might be something that they use in a portfolio. Lori, would you add anything else on that?
I do want to add, you mentioned the test retest product that we use for pre and post. That product does have to be administered in the same testing year. However, if you had a program of study that had 3 courses where they do start to take that program of study as a freshman or sophomore, you could still use our single administration product, and you could actually purchase the single administration, administer it at the very beginning of course 1, and then at the end, when they're a senior, you could do another single administration, and you would have some pre and post data there. It's just that test retest product is administered within the same testing year, but you could still have that same concept using our single administration. So.
Okay, we got a question from Raul, really good one. In our program of study, we teach Intro to Culinary Arts for 1 semester. After that, they take the food science course. Would this assessment be too advanced in this scenario, especially when considering the pre and the post? So thinking about, I'm assuming in the intro, you're covering all of the Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills. And so if that's the case, my inclination would be that it would not be too advanced, that possibly they could even do both of the tests. So you potentially could have your students do the culinary, and then of course they could do the food science as a separate pre-PAC. But if you're providing coverage for all of the Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills, your students might be successful with the intro. Again, what I would recommend, and Arnessa, we can follow up too with that diagram that does show where the connections are. That would be helpful for you. If you're, for example, using the curriculum from the Curriculum Center, then you would know how much coverage for that intro course you would have for that pre and post. And if you do pre, you will know where they are coming into intro. Post, then it would allow them to see where they are at the point at the end of the semester, and then thinking about preparing them for food science. Hopefully that answered your question.
And that would be a good opportunity to also take a look at the bulletin, and you can see the content that's taught, and then kind of map it out to how does that match up to your intro to culinary and then your food science course. Because I can tell you there's a little bit of food science in the culinary and the nutrition exam. And then, of course, in the food science, you're going to get a little bit of that nutrition principles, a little bit related to food preparation. So you'll see a little bit of overlap in those as well.
Okay, and he does ask, he mentioned in here with more clarification that he teaches the intro to culinary arts during the fall and receives a new set of students in the spring. So in that case, he might be offering testing both fall and spring, right?
Exactly.
Okay, hopefully that answered your question.
And that food science, it's got a lot of science-based content in there. So very, very rich in content related to not only family and consumer sciences, but other academic areas as well.
Okay. And we will follow up with the email with the alignments for you specifically so you can review that. So. All right. Well, we're at the end of our time. Boy, an hour goes quickly when got good information to share and good questions. We appreciate you being here today, and we appreciate all that you do to support family and consumer sciences programs in our schools. Know that you all work really hard, and just realize that both AAFCS and the Curriculum Center for Family and Consumer Sciences are here to support you and supporting your students. So please let us know how we can help you.